vision. Over the last decade, advances in deep neural networks have led to tremendous progress towards solving many computer vision tasks. However, many applications have to run on restrictive hardware. In such use cases, it is challenging to deploy deep neural networks that utilize increasingly powerful sensors due to bandwidth limitations between the sensor and processing unit. We aim to reduce bandwidth data transmission from the sensor to the neural network by intelligently selecting image patches to send from the front-end sensor to the back-end prediction model. We take inspiration from biological vision by developing algorithms that mimic the human saccade mechanism. We utilize patch masking as a means of filtering data from the front-end sensor to the back-end processing. We hypothesize and empirically validate that transformer-based models are well suited for processing massive inputs for image classification and object detection tasks. We propose a recurrent neural network architecture that is trained to mimic human fixations or ground truth saliency as an algorithmic implementation of the saccade mechanism. The recurrent neural network model anticipates the meaningful patches of the next frame based on partially sensed previously observed frames. The proposed saccade mechanism significantly outperforms random patch selection on classification and tracking tasks. Thank you for attending our talk. If you're interested in our work, please visit our poster.
Is this a right shoe, or a left shoe? To solve this problem, our brains rotate the shoe to a reference orientation. Most probably you'll align it with your right leg. According to Hinton, our visual system uses a rotation frame of coordinates, but ConvNets don't. Hinton proposed an alternative architecture, called capsule networks, to address the lack of the coordinate frame in ConvNets. Here, we asked, what if we just add a rotation frame of coordinates to ConvNets? To do this, we train a shallow neural network, called RE, that yields orientation given a matrix. RE was trained on randomly generated matrices in a self-supervised way, as shown in this figure. Basically, we feed 4 matrices, 3 of them are similar but rotated with different angles. The 4th is a completely different matrix. RE learns to find a representation that minimizes 2 loss functions, the triplet loss, and the approximation error of the rotation angle of each matrix. The rotation encoding network RE was embedded in a novel layer called convariant that convolves with RE. To test the effect of rotation encoding, we trained 2 image classification models, same number of parameters, but one with rotation encoding and one without. Rotation encoding did not improve the accuracy but resulted in a better resilience against noise on MNIST handwritten digits, fashion MNIST and CFAR.
Of learning deep fusion neural network for classifying subjects' confidence levels in the perception of visual stimulus. Wave fusion is composed of 17 lightweight CNNs, each of which contains 3 convolution layers, batch normalization, and ReLU activation. Each lightweight CNN learns the features of one EEG channel, and the features or maps are combined using squeeze and excite attention network for integrating modalities for final prediction. The dataset used in this work contains 20,000 training samples and 2,500 test samples generated from 10 subjects undergoing a perceptual decision-making task where subjects reported the direction of motion and their confidence. Short-time Fourier transform is applied to 1-second long recordings with a window size of 80 Hz and an overlap of 75%, yielding 63 spectrograms for each trial. To train wave fusion, we use subject-aware contrastive loss to train the model in a supervised contrastive learning manner. The SAC loss takes into account the confidence level for each sample as well as the subject who generated the sample. A classifier layer is then added to the model, and the model is trained for 150 epochs more using cost entropy loss. We found that the model achieves 98.7% and 92.7% classification accuracy with 50% positives and 50% intra-subject negatives.
Hello everyone, my name is Amélie Gruel. I'm a PhD student in computer science at IFRIAS laboratory in France, and today I'll be teaching you our work on neuromorphic foveation applied to semantic segmentation. Contrary to RGB cameras, event cameras output visual data in the form of an asynchronous event stream by recording pixel-wise luminance changes and microsecond resolution. This new kind of visual data is particularly well handled by spiking neural networks, since they intrinsically encode information in a sparse manner using activation spike train. Foveation can be defined as the organic action of directing the gaze towards a visual region of interest to selectively acquire relevant information. A combination of the three elements was used in our work to demonstrate the stakes of neuromorphic foveation. Indeed, with the recent advent of event cameras, we believe that taking advantages of the visual neuroscience mechanisms, which is foveation, will greatly improve the efficiency of event data processing. Applying foveation to event data would allow to comprehend the visual scene, while significantly reducing the amount of raw data to handle. In this respect, we present in this work the evolution of the performance of semantic segmentation with respect to the amount of event data used. We obtained promising results that are detailed in our poster, so come see us. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, my name is Preston Jang. I'm excited to present our work on learning hierarchical temporal representations via dynamic predictive coding. Different cognitive tasks require predicting future events at multiple timescales. How does the brain learn hierarchical temporal representations and use them for future predictions? We propose that the brain learns a spatial temporal generator model with a temporal hierarchy. In our formulation, higher level states modulate the transition dynamics of lower level states by generating a mixture weight vector that linearly combines the dictionary of transition matrices. At each time step, spatial temporal prediction errors correct the lower and higher level estimates of the latent states. We implemented this model in a 2-layer neural network. After training on natural image sequences, the first level neurons develop both separable and inseparable space-time receptive fields, similar to those of simple cells in the primary visual cortex. The second level response autocorrelation is higher than that of the first level. We demonstrate the temporal hierarchy of the model in more detail using the moving MNIST dataset. During inference on this example sequence, the first level activities displayed fast changes, while the second level activities spanned longer timescales and only showed notable changes when the input dynamics changed, eliciting large prediction errors. The second level responses clearly formed clusters by input motion, but not digit identity, showing the learned hierarchical temporal representations are disentangled from the spatial input content.
Hello. So visual perception is rather stable in the presence of eye movements, which are irrepressible, often unperceived, and necessary for visual perception. It is believed that perceptual stability is supported by corollary discharges, which are motor-related signals broadcasted across brain networks during self-generated movements. So in this study, we examined the mechanistic role of corollary discharges for perceptual stability using convolutional neural networks. CNNs, taken here as models of the ventral visual stream, were trained to classify Cypher-10 images that were shifted around to mimic saccades. We also added inputs that simulated corollary discharges and found that these signals supported the correct classification of images through the emergence of low-dimensional representations of object classes progressively across the layers, a phenomenon that is reminiscent of object manifolds, and also made the networks more robust relative to input noise. So in conclusion, if we associate computations in visual cortical streams to those in classifier networks and consider perception as activation states in these networks, then our results reveal a mechanistic role of corollary discharges in perceptual stabilization, supporting representational clustering and robustness to noise. For more details, please check out this paper, and thank you very much for your attention. Bye-bye.
Hello everyone, I am Harshita Machiraju, the first author of the paper, Empirical Advocacy of Bio-Inspired Models for Robust Image Recognition. The main view of the paper is that CNNs have problems with different types of perturbations like adversarial noise and more recent common corruptions like weather and blurring. However, humans do not need any extra training or data augmentation to be robust to such changes in the image. Through our work, we focus on analyzing how components of human vision could possibly help CNNs be robust. We also benchmark and explore the properties that make these GCNNs become robust. We explore 4 different bio-inspired models based on feedback, retinal sampling, and V1 cortex in human vision. We find that these models are extremely robust to both adversarial noise and common corruptions. We do not include any kind of data augmentation unlike other state-of-the-art robust models. Through our paper, we also explore possible explanations for these models to have these results. So please join us for the poster presentation later to know more.
Welcome to our paper titled AGNN, Asynchronous Event-Based Graph Neural Networks. In this work, we investigate the use of event cameras, which are bio-inspired vision sensors which, instead of measuring dense synchronous images, output sparse asynchronous events with microsecond resolution. The best performing learning methods convert sparse events into dense representations such as voxel grids, which they then process using a standard CNN. These representations contain redundant zeros, which lead to excess computation. Moreover, when a new event arrives, these networks need to recompute all activations. In this work, we model events as spatiotemporal graphs, which we process using asynchronous event-based GNNs, short AGNNs. These networks are inherently sparse and use local update rules, which are applied for each new event. By applying these rules, AGNN reduces the computational complexity of GNNs by up to 200 times, while keeping an identical output and similar state-of-the-art performance. This opens the door to low latency and low power applications with event cameras. For paper, code, and video, visit our website.
Hello everyone, my name is Melanie Sanchez. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at UCSB, and today I'm going to present our work called Efficient Visual Object Representation Using Biologically Plausible Spike Latency Encode and Winner-Take-All Inhibition. So deep convolutional neural networks have surpassed human performance in key visual challenges such as object recognition, but require a large amount of energy, computation, and memory. In contrast, spiky neural networks have the potential to improve both the efficiency and biological plausibility of object recognition systems due to their potential for low power consumption, fast inference, and asynchronous operation. So here we present a spiky neural network model that uses spike latency encoding and winner-take-all inhibition to efficiently represent stimuli from the fashion MNIST dataset. So we show that efficient object representation can be learned with spiking time-dependent plasticity rule that rely on sparsely encoding visual information among local neurons. Remarkably, our network is able to represent objects with as little as 150 spiking neurons and at most 40 spikes. Thank you.
Face recognition is an important feature of human and animal behavior and is increasingly relevant in modern technologies. Many machine learning algorithms achieve high accuracy on face recognition tasks, but fall victim to inaccuracies that humans can overcome, such as invariance. Spiking neural networks retain biological properties that may guide face recognition capabilities in their various applications. We will review spiking neural networks for face recognition and then demonstrate promising avenues in biological mechanisms of face processing. All face perception models still have something to learn from biology, as posture, pose, lighting, and makeup, among other things, can all disrupt detection and recognition. Early spiking neural network models of simple face discrimination achieved face recognition with one spike per neuron, proving that a simple feed-forward network can learn faces. Subsequent models further examined situational invariance as well as emotion discrimination to improve spiking neural network abilities. Important biology that will drive model creation includes incorporating specific neurotransmitter activity important to face processing, implementing oscillatory coordination, applying genetic algorithms, and testing models of face-related brain regions like the fusiform face area specifically.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about our work CGN. For graph-based few-shot classification, the limited label information and rough node similarity update restrict the relation inference. In this paper, we propose a capsule graph network to explore and transmit more discriminative relations for limited samples. First, based on the internal consistency, we refine the node embedding into groups of in feature to further exploits discriminative local correlation. Second, based on the external consistency, we explicitly model the external distribution performance with the X feature and excavate the global relation. The double consistency enrich more explanatory local and global information, therefore alleviating the influence of the insufficient sample. Moreover, we utilize the CAPSMET to transform the supplementary feature to sample relation. The vector similarity provides a more complete and accurate representation of the relationship between samples. The routing mechanism gradually magnifies the power of representative attributes, which ensures a smooth transition between feature update process. The experiment results affirm that our method achieves a robust and efficient performance on the few-shot classification task. Thanks for watching this video.
Hi, my name is Marina Lacadoni. This is joint work with Mauro Fadda, Andrea Lagori, and Enrico Grosso. Our main idea is to build a deformable park-based model that is based on a bottom-up pyramidal process guided by human fixations. To this end, we used the Karolinska dataset. We collected human fixations from 24 observers. We cumulated these fixations, as we can see here, and we found the clusters. On the same images, we calculated the Laplacian in 11 scales. We found the local extrema, scale space extrema for each scale, and as before, we clustered them. What we want to do is to find the scales for which the clusters of the extrema are closer to the clusters of the human fixations. For the Laplacian operator, we can see that this happens for scale number 4, 6, 8, and 10. And these are the scales that we use to build our deformable park-based model. So in our future work, we'll build a model and we'll test it for face detection and face recognition. Thank you very much for your attention.
Hi, for this workshop we are going to present a model of spiking neuron using synaptic delays to make efficient computations. We tested on a visual motion detection task. Inspired from biology, the well-known leaf neuron integrates input spikes coming from different presynaptic neurons. The membrane potential, plotted on the bottom, increases when input spikes are integrated by the different synapses in black on the leaf figure. When this membrane potential reaches a defined threshold, the neuron emits an output spike in red. This model makes use of the temporal dynamics embedded in the spike train as input. In the model that we present, a neuron can have different synaptic weights, the size of the black dots, and different conduction delays, time taken from an integrated input spike to reach the soma of the neuron, the white circle. Note that the top and the bottom synapses have lower conduction delays than the other ones. Adding this temporality to the spiking mechanisms of the neuron makes it able to detect a precise spatiotemporal motif embedded in the spike train, the green spikes. In this work, we use such a model of spiking neuron to perform a motion detection task on naturalistic stimuli. We successfully performed the supervised learning of both the synaptic weights and delays. Then we show that once trained, synaptic weights can be pruned to reduce the number of computations.
The brain performs sampling to infer the posterior of stimulus in the outside world. As we know that sampling leads to stable variability, this triggers a question that what is a stable and ubiquitous variability in the brain that is able to drive sampling? From neurobiology studies, we know Poisson spiking variability is ubiquitous in the cortex, and we use the Poisson spiking neurons to implement sampling-based inference. Next, a technical question is how can the stereotypical and the discrete Poisson variability is able to sample continuous stimulus posteriors of different types and uncertainties. To do this, we consider a neuron population code where a population of neurons whose firing rate covers the whole stimulus space and independently generate Poisson spikes over time. We found given each generated population spike, it linearly embeds stimulus sample. And the stimulus sample distribution is determined by the linear product between population spike and the population firing rate. So basically, we found the firing rate profile will determine the continuous stimulus distribution, and the overall firing rate controls the stimulus sampling variability. We'll also use an example of sampling bivariate stimulus implemented in coupled networks to demonstrate the Poisson sampling. So basically, each network samples the corresponding stimulus, and over time, the whole network samples the bivariate stimulus posterior. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dimitris Glezakos, and I will talk to you about hyperuniversal policy approximators, or HUPAs. Gibson's theory of affordances proposes that we perceive objects not just by their visual features, but also by the motor actions that they afford. Inspired by this idea, we propose HUPAs, models that utilize simple contextual information to generate plans of action. This view allows for generalization of learned skills to novel objects and environments. HUPAs are hypernetworks. That means that they generate other neural networks. In the context of a simple navigation task, a HUPA takes in a map of a space represented by an image and generates a small policy network that can navigate the agent to any goal from any starting state. We train HUPAs on a subset of goals and maps and generalize to unknown ones. The maps are generated by taking a base map with all doors open and closing 3 doors randomly. The traditional alternative to HUPAs is the embedding one. This approach learns a single policy network which receives the map directly as input. We compare the two approaches on the navigation task in terms of reachability. This metric measures how often the agent reaches the goal using the generated policy and is more informative and strict than plain accuracy. We saw that for different navigator sizes, the hypernetwork approach outperforms the embedding alternative by a wide margin. We also vary the number of maps and goals in the training set, and saw that HUPAs consistently outperform the baseline in every setting. Here you can see some examples of generated policies of high quality, and a few ones where the model fails to generalize by omitting one or more routes. Thank you. Hi, I'm Dimitris Glezakos, and these are active predictive coding networks, or APCNs. An APCN is a visual attention model that parses images in a hierarchical manner. In each macro step, an APCN focuses on a large sub-area of the image. It then parses that area by recursively generating parsing programs. Each such program interacts with the image via a series of glimpses and returns the knowledge that it has acquired to its parent program. APCNs are split into 2 subsystems. The state subsystem is tasked with integrating the knowledge about the image that is extracted by the glimpses. It is task agnostic and trained through predictive coding. The action subsystem is task dependent and chooses the glimpse locations, both top and bottom level, that are useful to the specific task. It is trained through reinforcement learning. We apply APCNs to reconstructing MNIST digits and fashion MNIST clothing items. We also test transfer learning to novel omniglot characters. Here, we can see a parsing example for an MNIST digit. The top row shows the core top-level parts of the object that the model focuses on. The second row shows the actual bottom-level glimpses for each such top-level part. The next 2 rows compare the actual with the predicted glimpses. The last row shows how the reconstruction changes after parsing each object part. Here, we can see the class conditional top-level locations for fashion MNIST. Notice how these change between vertically oriented items such as t-shirts and horizontally oriented ones such as shoes. Finally, this is a parsing example for novel omniglot characters. The first columns show the extracted glimpses color-coded by macro step. The third to last column shows the composed superparts. The last 2 columns show the actual digit and its reconstruction. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dakari Crowder, and I'll be talking about our work, Robustness of Humans and Machines on Object Recognition with Extreme Image Transformation. Try looking in a muddy river with high current. You can differentiate between the types of fish seen in the water with a fairly high accuracy. Now imagine showing that to a neural network, trained to recognize all kinds of fishes. Why does it struggle to recognize a fish it has already seen? Humans and neural networks seem to have differing ways of solving the object recognition problem. While humans tend to view objects as a whole and use knowledge on how the object interacts in the environment, allowing them to identify objects in adversarial conditions, neural networks seem to use a bottom-up approach, using things like contour and textures to identify objects, in turn decreasing their ability to recognize things under adversarial conditions. Thus, we wanted to view these differences between machines and humans. We created 5 extreme image transformations and applied them to CVPR 100. An example is displayed on the right. V1 ResNet 50, ResNet 50, and ResNet 101 models were trained and tested on the transform images of the same kind. We also tested humans on the same transforms as the model. Model performance significantly decreased with the transform images. Humans outperformed networks on all but color flattening transforms. This signifies that humans are using different techniques than models in order to identify objects. We aim to expand our study by using a mix of coarse and fine labels. We would like to explore the usage of these transforms in increasing model robustness. We would further expand our study by including more human subjects. Thank you for your attention.
We explored techniques that would help models generate human-centered saliency maps without sacrificing accuracy. Our main research question is to identify techniques that can make state-of-the-art object detection models generate saliency maps that are more similar to human eye fixations. We explore 3 different data augmentation techniques to see if any improve the model's saliency maps. The goal of selective erasing is to get rid of potential spurious patterns. The selective inpainting uses selective erasing and then inpaints the erased image. To improve the model generalization, we also apply several different non-trivial transformations to the images, such as bounding boxes, color, and geometric augmentations. We fine-tuned faster RCNN on the Pascal 2012 training set with our augmentations and save the model to evaluate later. During evaluation, we calculate the mean average precision, mean absolute error, and intersection over union between the saliency maps generated by the saved model and the predicted eye fixations, as well as the human attention masks. We evaluated our data augmentation pipelines to see if they help saliency maps become more human-centered without significantly sacrificing accuracy. In our experiment, we observed that data augmentations that are derived from predicted human attention can improve the mean absolute error and intersection over union between the model saliency and the predicted attention. Thank you for listening to our talk.
Hi, I'm Aries, a postdoc at the Neural Systems Lab at the University of Washington. Today I'll be talking about recursive neural programs, a generative model for parsing objects and scenes into part-whole hierarchies. Human vision involves generating conceptual objects and relationships between them. A key feature of animal intelligence is the ability to synthesize new objects hierarchically using existing primitives and relationships. A Segway, for example, can be understood as a synthesis of wheels and handles, but each one of these wheels and handles are a synthesis of other objects. We can express this as trees of programs, each consisting of state and action transition functions. To make the model recursive, each state or patch can be thought of as a program that generates itself through a composition of primitives. Applied to these MNIST digits, each patch that makes a whole digit can be generated as a program of transformations of smaller patches. We could do this by passing each state through a hypernetwork, which generates state and policy functions that map state action pairs into new states and actions, composing them sequentially until the program is complete. We could do this recursively by feeding each state Z into the hypernet. The explicit compositionality and recursion of our model allows it to express unseen objects as transformations of known primitives, enabling zero-shot learning. Here are some examples of zero-shot learning with RNPs trained on MNIST digits instead of 7 or 8, or on unseen omniglot characters. We're working on expanding our model to incorporate dynamic inference during generation. With this, I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Hi, today I'm going to present our work to preserve creative intention under different ambient light levels based on cognitive vision research. Videos are generally mastered in a very dark environment at studios. This defines the creative intention, which is the visualization that the colorist at the studio intended for the audiences to see. But many times, people watch TV in a brighter environment. As ambient light level increases, the perceived on-screen picture quality begins to progressively degrade. People will see much less shadow and mid-tone details. We innovatively designed a psychophysical experiment to learn from the human vision system. We proposed the HDR10 Plus adaptive algorithm, which integrates the metadata and the ambient sensor information to reproduce the colorist's creative intention as much as possible under different ambient light levels. The goal of the psychophysical experiment is to find the mapping function between the ambient light level obtained by the sensor and the level of image degradation caused by pupil size change. The results of 6 different ambient light levels are shown in the slide. Along with the ambient light increasing, the final compensated results started to get brighter, but conservatively to preserve the creative intention.